as it pertains to recruiting, I think being in that space can do nothing but benefit you, because it really helps you understand what you're selling, right? To be able to see the culture at play.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Recruitment Podcast by Recruit CRM. It's me again, your host, Kate O'Neill, and I'm back again with another amazing guest joining me today, where we're going to really deep dive into a recruitment specific topic that I know not only myself, but all of you are going to benefit from today. So I am pleased to have on with me today my guest, Stephanie Cramer. I'm really excited for this one because we're going to go into elevating talent acquisition, the strategic advantage.
So hi everyone, yes, Stephanie Cramer. I'm really excited to be here and dig into this topic with everyone. As far as, a bit more about myself, I always like learning about where people are from. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, which is the middle of the country of the US. And I just feel as though, those simple, lifestyle components really kind of are foundational to who I am. And I've learned that through talent acquisition, people are people. And to your point about being able to learn from, how work is done in the UK and how work is done in the US, we're all human. And that's what we're dealing with when it comes to recruiting. We're dealing with people, right? And so being able to connect and have empathy really is like the cornerstone of, I believe, a successful function. So I'm excited to dig into this topic.
No, I totally agree. I think, it's been although every guest has brought a different topic to the table, there is a very strong recurring theme that has come up and resonated from each episode. And I'm so glad of it. It's been that, we're dealing with people, we are people, everyone, the values around that, how people matter, which I think sometimes when recruitment is done sort of the wrong way, that gets forgotten. So yeah, that has definitely been a recurring theme that has come up. And I'm the same as you. I grew up in the Welsh countryside, so not in America. But yeah, very much a farm village in the middle of nowhere. So very similar in terms of backgrounds there. So let's dive into the topic then. So I can only speak on behalf of the UK. So I think in the UK, talent acquisition and agency recruitment is seen as very different. And the two don't really meet as often as they probably should and join together. So there's lots of separate networking for agency and TA teams. So far, we've probably mainly had guests from agency recruitment. I think we've only had one TA guest, Brian Fink. So it's going to be really interesting to cover these questions off with you today, because even the agency recruiters listening, I know, can benefit from the strategy that I'm sure works and is implemented in the functions that you're and have been based in. So what have you seen how have you seen the role of talent acquisition evolve into a strategic function in organizations across America?
Absolutely. So I think if you look at talent acquisition historically, it was born out of HR, and HR is a cost center. They do not contribute revenue, right, to the bottom line, and so it's a natural progression that talent acquisition was also seen as a cost center. And unfortunately, with that, how can we do things faster and cheaper? And it really lends itself to a transactional approach. I think as far as how that has shifted over time, there's, at least in the US, and I think also it's true for the UK, there's just this huge emphasis now on, it's not just the client experience. It's not just, customer first, right? Like, in order to achieve that, we also have to have a healthy and thriving employee experience, because they equal each other, they balance each other, right? And so with that, I think companies are coming around to the fact that our people have a major impact into our success, right? And so being able to come up with a strong strategic talent plan to ensure that that talent is coming in, we're defining tomorrow, right? And so do
Yeah.
we have the right talent at the right time? Is that talent being developed and grown from within? And a really a really successful function is when those two, marry, at the same time and place. So it's still, a process. It's not, baked in, perfect, across the country and across industry, but it's definitely changing.
Yeah, and definitely there's been that sort of shift here as well, where people are seeing actually, well, how important bringing the right people in is, but also the people that are in the organization already, people feeling valued, empowered, listened to, understood, all that stuff builds a better organization, and helps attract talent as well. So even in agencies, I do a lot more on the agency side. That is definitely the conversations or the sort of positive feel that is happening in the industry. So definitely, and that's in the UK as well. So it's definitely something that you can see already is sort of happening between the two. So what are the key steps that talent acquisition leaders can take to sort of align their strategies to the broader business objectives? Because you said it's sort of born out of HR and that's sometimes separate part of the business. So I suppose it needs to sort of align, doesn't it?
Absolutely. No, the strategy around HR is how do we, engage and retain, right? And the cornerstone of talent acquisition is how do we attract and acquire. Yeah, I think it's just interesting. Just a quick note. I actually started off my recruiting and talent acquisition career in an agency. I spent 5 years at a company called Kforce and built out their Mid-Atlantic permanent IT division. And so I bring that up because what I learned there was just really valuable. I was able to see how a lot of different companies operated and, pros and cons to all of them. But for me, it really brought to light that to be successful, it was imperative that I understood the business objectives. Like, I don't want to be transactional. I'm not just going to throw resumes up against a wall and see if they stick, right? Like, I don't want short-term business. I want long-term business, repeat business. And so it was really just slowing down and asking, what is the business objective that we're trying to solve for? And then that just had, that was the North Star. And then everything just trickled down, right? Because I was able to take that. And then as I'm, recruiting people, recruiting is sales, right? Like, candidates may not be buying with, money, they're buying with their time and their career. And we're selling
Totally.
we're selling the employee value proposition, right? So being able to explain that holistically was just pivotal in being able to close. And so having that experience, bringing that over to the corporate side, it was just a no-brainer, right? Because again, I'm trying to sell people on the fact that they should invest their time here. I don't necessarily want a person to stay 1 year. I want them to stay 3 years, 5 years, right? That the institutional knowledge that they have, their ability to move internally, they ramp so much more quickly when they move to jobs. So, I mean, it's just imperative that we really keen in and focus on the business objectives and align our strategies to support that. I don't know if I have a question, but I wanted to make sure to highlight the agency background and the business objectives and how that really was the North Star.
So what are some of the unique challenges or opportunities in talent acquisition specific to the sort of market that you're working in particular, the US market? Because I think, as I said at the start, the UK listeners can benefit from this as well as the American listeners we've got.
Yeah, it's interesting. Post-pandemic, the whole, return to work, do you get to work remotely, hybrid? I'm probably the biggest proponent of a hybrid style environment, just because, again, we are all innately human, and to be human is to connect, right? And
Mm.
also, you see me here. I'm in my home office, and I get a lot done. And so I think that's one of the challenges. Luckily, the company that I work for Ironbow Technologies. They are very supportive and flexible of that model, and we have employees across the country. And so it really adds to our EVP in being able to provide that flexibility to individuals, but yet they still prioritize coming together. In fact, next is a big, conference style get together in Florida, which I'm very excited about. Warm. And
Jealous.
but it's being very intentional about that. And so that's one of the challenges, right? Like, of course, I can only think about it from my own company's perspective because I'm no longer kind of within the agency world. But that's a benefit to us. But as far as, the challenges that we're seeing, we have a lot of different type of technical positions at our company, and they all require different strategies with which to engage that talent. I love it that we have early career entry style technical positions, because I'm really passionate about breaking down those barriers and bringing that style of talent in, and from a DE&I perspective, just opening that aperture up and like just really helping it cultivate. But yet we also have these crazy high-end positions, really high-end Cisco network engineer positions that require fancy, CCIE certifications. And then we also have government business, and so they need fancy clearances. And it's just, it's a completely different strategy for every single type of position. And the candidate experience for me is paramount. It is top notch. That is the most important thing. And so it needs to be unique, and it needs to be tailored, per persona, per type of role almost. And that tends to be a bit of a challenge. But luckily, my team is knocking it out of the park. So we're making it happen.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things you said there. So one, the whole working from home thing. So I'm also in my home office. I worked from home for a good 7 years before the COVID pandemic. So that I've been working from this office for way too long now. But I always used to think I enjoyed just the working from home. Like you say, you get loads done, not disturbed. But now with my business, when I've gone out into agencies and I'm working with teams for the day, I actually do love the hybrid options that I've got now. I've got days at home where I can just focus and get things done.
Yeah.
I've got time with other people where I can connect and engage, and even just to be in a room full of people. You might be talking, but just to sit in a room of people, whether you have a good day or a bad day, I think it massively opens up. I find sometimes I'm even more creative. So in terms of opportunities, it's giving me more opportunity to sort of
Sure.
develop. But yeah, I agree with you. I think people need connection, don't they?
Well, absolutely. And when you said just a second ago that it allows you to be more creative, I mean, innovation occurs when you have disparate data points, right? Different variables coming together that you hadn't previously thought of, right? And so it's like when these come together, it's like, oh, you make connections, and it's like, oh, well, I hadn't even thought about that. And again, as it pertains to recruiting, I think being in that space can do nothing but benefit you, because it really helps you understand what you're selling, right? To be able to see the culture at play. It's really helpful.
Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned was that sort of candidate experience. And I think obviously it's important when you're an agency recruiter, but when you're internal talent, you are representing the company that you're trying to attract these people to, and they will be judging their experience through the experience they have with you, which is allowing me to segue into a very cheeky Recruit CRM little promotion here, which anyone that's listened to all the episodes will know I always do this midway through. But as I always say, I use Recruit CRM in my agency. So I'm talking from experience. Now, the candidate experience for me, and always has been since I started in recruitment 12 years ago, paramount, like absolutely top priority. And Recruit CRM allows me to improve and sort of develop the candidate experience that my candidates have because of how efficient it allows me to be. A lot of what candidates want is decent communication. They want a reliable recruiter. They want somebody that they're going to hear from. So even little things like being able to set tasks that pop up and don't let me forget to follow up with people. You know, the sort of automated and AI emails I can send, you know, after I put them in for an interview or they've got a meeting with me. So they get that through and they've got confirmation. So they're being kept updated. It's professional experience. They know where they're at with things. I'm remembering to keep in touch with them, and they are getting this positive experience from the moment that they apply or I get in touch with them right through to them getting a position. So, you know, the candidate, your CRM is part of what helps that candidate experience be not perfected, because I think none of us are perfect, but it definitely helps it improve. So I'll come back later in the podcast to how you can get a free demo of Recruit CRM. But for the moment, I'm going to go back to the questions because we've still got more to cover off. So what I wanted to ask you as well was, because data and analytics, I'm hearing, when I started in recruitment, no one talked about the data. You know, we had data from our CRMs, but I don't think we did anything much with it other than, have you made enough calls today? There's so much more we can do with it. And I'm seeing now through sort of expos and talks I go to, people are really leveraging and utilizing data so much better, but I'm only hearing it from the agency side. So I'm interested to find out from you, how can talent acquisition teams leverage data and analytics to make sort of those better hiring decisions and demonstrate strategic value?
I love this question. I'm so glad it's come up. As I mentioned in the beginning, talent acquisition was really viewed as a cost center. So it's not surprising that the operation model, you know, was designed that way. Historic metrics, you know, cost to hire, time to hire, quality of hire. I mean, these are static metrics, and I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we don't look at this from a more holistic perspective. So as far as talent acquisition is concerned, I think we can benefit so much through looking at it with that, almost like that project management trifecta where, you know, schedule, scope, and budget are so important. Applying that to talent acquisition, I love the metrics of hiring budget. Most organizations measure the absolute cost of recruiting. It's, you know, forward-looking organizations consider costs associated with recruiting as an investment, almost like a marketing budget, you know, to really think about how to attract and nurture that pipeline of ideal candidates. So again, we're not there. These are my goals for 2025. But thinking about, you know, total cost of recruiting per month divided by the total salary of new hire, those salaries of those employees per month, and turn into a percentage. So having that, I also like hiring velocity. And that is, I think, such an interesting way to think about time to fill, to think that like one metric, one number, one goal is going to be suitable and apply to all positions is so short-sighted. You could have a resignation received immediately, you know, prior to the highest production time of the year, and a quick turnaround is needed. We have got to get this filled within 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks is going to be, you know, the success metric for that position. Conversely, there might be a strategic leadership hire that requires a longer vetting period, and, you know, budget impacts. And so, you know, a 6-month time to fill is appropriate. And so hiring velocity is taking the total jobs filled on time divided by the total jobs and then turn into a percentage as well. So I like hiring budget, hiring velocity, and then net hiring score. And again, that is survey based, where you're connecting with the hiring manager and the new hire. I personally like at the 90-day mark because I think annual performance metrics are antiquated. the world is dynamic, industry is dynamic, business is dynamic, so much changes, right? So quickly. Like to wait, that long to determine if this was a successful hire is just not effective. And so I like at that 90-day mark to just check in with a survey to scale of 1 to 10, like how strong of a quality of hire was this? And so taking that, number of great fits minus the total number of poor fits and then turn into a percentage. So the idea is being able to look at these 3 metrics, almost like in a dashboard, because looking at one alone in a vacuum is very short-sighted. You need to be able to understand where your business is at, what your business objectives are, because it might make more sense that, hiring velocity is like, that's where we need to be. We just want a massive project, we have got to like churn and burn, right? And that might be success, right? For where your business is at. Conversely, there might, be a lot of turnover. And so we really need to like slow down and figure out, that net hiring score to really double down on ensuring, the quality and the fit is there. Yeah, and it really is just dependent on, again, those business objectives. So sorry to kind of go off on a tangent there, but I'm really passionate about those. And I think
I love that.
It really does a lot from taking you from transactional to strategic, because they're dynamic. They're not static.
I really love that one you said as well about getting the employee to give that score, but also the manager. Because, and I think the fact that you continue to do it, because there can be, I think, some organizations where they have a great period where employee engagement is great hires are made, everything's going right, and then something starts to go wrong, and then it's because nothing's being monitored. It's like, well, we need to find out now what's going wrong, and it can, really flip what goes on in the TA teams and attracting people and all this stuff. Whereas you're keeping that constant monitoring on it, manager and employee. So as I think recruitment in general always evolves, but obviously companies evolve as well, don't they? So it's tracking things that are happening constantly to make even the little tweaks, isn't it?
It makes all the difference in the world. Business is not static. And I am a huge fan of pulse surveys. I don't want one survey to go out and it takes you, 45 minutes to complete. And then the amount of analysis required to, come up with the, the trends, and then, to share back this info, it takes so long. And I'm not surprised that the completion rate on these type of surveys is so low, right? I personally believe that, quick pulse surveys per month, 30 seconds, right, through an app, you send it out to your employees to capture
That's
that.
easy.
It's so simple. And I personally think that in order to really get the response rate that you want, you have got to close that communication loop. You can't just say, hey, what do you think? What are the problems? And then never circle back with them, right? Come back to them, say, hey, we hear you. We understand, like these are the top, 2-3 challenges. We can't do all of them immediately, but this is the one that we're going to tackle. And then, we'll come back to the next one, right? But communicating back out, and that then motivates people to want to continue to communicate back.
The other thing I wanted to cover with you is employer branding, because I'm big into sort of personal branding, and I know when you're part of an organization, it's massive when it comes to talent acquisition, isn't it? So how, with employer branding, what do you see as being the most effective strategies in attracting those people you class as top talent?
Yeah, it really has to be a holistic approach and consistent across marketing, or marketing channel. So a lot of companies are doing this nowadays. I think HubSpot was one of the first to really put together a document called your culture key or your culture code. And that was a document that took the time to define what that culture is, what that EVP is. And so I did it at my last company, and we've done it here at Ironbow, but that's kind of, I keep saying your North Star, but as far as your EVP is concerned, it is. It also keeps your company accountable, right? Like, this is who we said we are. Like, let's make sure our decisions are in alignment with that. But once you have that, Then you can take that and pull out pieces as appropriate across all your different marketing channels. And it needs to be consistent, right? Like, so on social media, in your recruitment campaigns, on your careers page, all of this has to be consistent. And one of the things that I feel is truly the the resistance is really getting your employees bought in to be ambassadors of that EVP, of that brand.
So important.
And you can't say, okay, everyone, we need you to do this. That's not it. It needs to be organic, right? And so I have a lot of opinions on this, but in terms of really motivating and attracting that top talent, in the day and age in which we live, we're so influenced by, influencers, that you want your culture, you want your EVP to creep into these, niche corners of social, where it's not like a company can be, present and touting their brand. It's what's going to speak most is a personal, testament, right? And so really getting your employees bought on. There's a lot of research and strategy into how to do that effectively. We don't have time to go into that today, but that's where it's at.
It's a whole nother subject, isn't it? But I'm with you on getting people bought in, because I think there's doesn't matter what size. I've been into small businesses through to larger, where they've got these values or a mission statement or whatever it is, that they're kind of following their branding by, but actually who came up with that? And some of the employees don't even know it, let alone believe it, or, they've got to breathe it to life, haven't they, as much as the top ends of the business. And that is, I think that then means that in terms of attracting talent, if everyone in the business is breathing that to life, it's going to be out there more for people to see, and therefore people are much more likely to reach out. So it's not just us finding the talent, they're coming to want to work for our organizations. And that's what makes the whole TA process a lot easier, isn't it? We're not just having to look, people are, can I come and work for you sort of mentality.
Absolutely. And, when I was back at agency, I wasn't doing consulting, contractor style placements, but I was doing direct hire. And I really looked at myself as an extension of that company, where I was, candidate experience was everything, because I was representing that company. And so really being able to understand how to capture and explain and really live, the fundamentals of said company that I was representing was paramount.
Yeah. So the one other thing I wanted to ask you is, what are you sort of seeing as the emerging trends or even technologies? I know tech is all, it's a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? That you're seeing will shape talent acquisition strategies over the next sort of 5 years, really?
Oh, 5 years. I mean, I feel like 6 months, right? Like
everything changes like that, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. And I am seeing a lot of different technologies come out that I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. Oh, wow, that's cool. But of course, a lot of them have implications. One of which that I'm really excited about is a tool that I'll have to come up with the name. But the tool records the interviews that are occurring, and then the AI feature takes notes for you, so that you can truly be present in that moment and not have to be like, okay, wait, what was that? Okay, wait, what was that? And then you can go back and reference that. And when you're coming up with your scorecard at the end of that session, it's really, really helpful. I think that we're still trying to figure out the legal implications of that, right? Because now there is this recording, and what if something goes south, and so now it's something that could be subpoenaed. I mean, there's a lot, that
you've got to think about these things, haven't you?
For sure. But I think that the AI component is going to just be fantastic for recruiting. I know a lot of people are, pontificating and saying, well, it's going to take over. I personally don't think it's going to take over. I think we need to look at it as kind of like a co-pilot, something that can assist us to be more efficient and to really spend our time where it matters, and that's that human connection piece.
Mm.
That's a recruiter's value proposition. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think the people that are worrying about AI sort of taking our jobs, to be, the people that are really catastrophizing it, I think of the people that maybe are taking more of that transactional approach and they're not focused on relationships as much. Because, as you say, if you as a recruiter capitalize on your value proposition, which is your personality, the candidate experience, all of that stuff, use AI. I love what you said about it being a co-pilot. Exactly that. Use it to help you be more time efficient. Take notes for you in meetings, calls. I had a demo the other day of some tech where even phone calls, it'll transcribe and create a summary for you. So all your notes go straight into the CRM. Amazing. It's time saving. But AI making your calls for you, AI running your meetings. If we go back to candidate experience, do we really think that candidates are going to be happy knowing they're speaking to a bot? I don't think so.
Because to be human is to want to connect, right? So absolutely, I'm right there with you.
So yeah, I think things like the tech you mentioned, taking notes, can make our lives so much easier, give us more time to spend with people, develop our businesses, all of that good stuff. That's what we should be using AI for. And that's what I think is going to be really exciting about the next, as you say, even just 6 months, is to see in 2025, what else comes out. Because if we think of all the tech that's come out in 2024,
I know
it's going to be an exciting time. So God, 5 years when you think about it.
I mean, ChatGPT just came out, in 23, I think.
Yeah, and look at it now. So yeah, very exciting times. But with that, we've come to the end of the episode. That has absolutely flown by. Thank you so much to everybody that's watched and listened today, where we've talked about elevating talent acquisition, the strategic advantage, with Stephanie Cramer. If you found this helpful, which I'm absolutely sure you will have done, we would both love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So you can find Stephanie's details as well as my own in the podcast description and comments below. So definitely go and give us a follow, connect with us for recruitment insights, things like that. You've got my website, both of them listed below as well. If you, when I was talking about Recruit CRM, were thinking, I want some of that, I would like a demo, all you need to do is go to recruitcrm.io and you get a free demo. The links will all be in the podcast description as well. It's very easy for you to do. I would encourage you to just have a play around with it and see what you think. But thank you very much for joining us. In our next episode, we are going to be discussing something data related. And I really enjoyed that data question we had today, so I'm super excited for this one. I've got Charlotte Smith on with me, and we're going to be talking about managing, as in managing people with data. So leading without micromanaging. So I'm really, really interested in this topic. It's going to be a juicy one to get into. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.